thing about Will is like Will has just a great makeup in terms of his, I guess they call it now aura, but he's just got great juice to him. And so, that was on display. But when you were there watching it, talking to a couple of the NFL personnel, you just realize how big he is. And he just looks like an NFL guy out there day one.
And with the second overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, your Cleveland Browns select the best podcast available. Welcome to the show, another show. We are not yet in April. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it will be April, but it'll be posted long before then. We still have a month to go, like really 4.5
4
weeks.
weeks from today,
It's
baby.
a month to go, Jason
4 weeks.
Gibbs. In the meantime, it is Gibby, it is Hi. I'm Andrew Siciliano, and we are here marching slowly but surely
it's slow.
through the pro day malaise and excitement and hype, Gibby, to the draft. Can it get here, please?
We are slogging through the mud like professionals. We got
Yes.
waders on. It is a tough go of it, but we're getting there. It's interesting when you go back and you look a year ago at this time and you think, like, we were still signed. There were a lot of free agent happenings that happened in the last week in March.
And by the way,
there was still a lot of
happen.
activity.
Yeah.
But right now, there is nothing. I mean, the NFL has gone eerily silent a month out here from the NFL draft.
There is one thing that is still out there. As we tape this today on baseball opening day, Tanner Bybee soon to take the bump in Kansas City as we record this.
Breaking news.
What?
Out.
What do you mean?
Not starting.
What?
Not starting. Food poisoning.
Oh, shut
Scratched.
up.
I'm not kidding. Hold on.
Oh, is that why I just
I'm
saw?
gonna pull a Schefter.
Hold on. Is that why I just saw this TikTok that said Bybee? Oh, it was an old Stephen Kwan Bybee thing on Chipotle that he has to eat Chipotle every day when he pitches. I'm not saying that's how he got.
I don't know. I love Chipotle.
So do I.
I'm a stockholder. For God's
I believe
sakes.
we had it twice at the combine. Anyway, I digress. I guess it's not Tanner Bybee. What a way to begin the season.
Ben Lively.
Ben Lively.
All right. Kick off the Guardian season
Go
today.
to the veteran right-hander who didn't make the postseason.
It literally
roster.
happened as I was coming down here to tape this. I'm like, wait, what's going on?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, a text from my old man coming. There goes the season. Okay.
Yes.
Well, as we record this, it is pro day season. Let's just get to that. Let's get to the Browns content. This is the best podcast available. On Monday, the University of Miami had its pro day. Cam Ward threw, Xavier Restrepo and Elijah Arroyo and others caught passes, and Miami worked out. Glenn Cook represented the Browns, former Miami linebacker, the Browns assistant GM. Let me just say this, and Gibby, I know I hit this on Tuesday when I sat in on CBD. Pro days only matter so much, people. Do not get your undergarments in a bunch about who goes to a pro day. Let me compare a pro day, and they do have significance, certainly, to a college job fair, where the applicants walk around with their resumes, and all the would-be employers and the big firms are there, and they're taking the applications. Okay. Would you, as a prospective employer, rather find your new employee at a job fair? It's certainly significant. Or would you rather do it in a one-on-one interview? Would you rather welcome that job applicant into your building, have dinner with him, get him to meet the whole staff, run him through the interview process, or talk to him in front of the other 31 prospective employers? They have value. Yes, I wanted to see how Cam Ward threw, but don't get upset who goes to the pro day. And that goes for any pro day, including Ohio State pro days on Tuesday, which is a good time here to point out that Ryan Day, the head coach of the Buckeyes, will join us shortly. Gibby, what is far more important, and you know this, or maybe you don't, maybe you want to argue with me. Maybe you do know it, but want to argue with me. Feel free. That private workouts, and the Browns did do one this week with Cam Ward, and my friend Ian Rappaport says do have one scheduled with Shedeur Sanders. They are far more significant.
Yes. It is the intimate one-on-one. Do I believe that you should have some kind of representation at all these? Yes.
They did.
And have we?
Yes.
We have. So I think it's at this point in the game, the board, I wouldn't say the board is set, but it's being trimmed down, and you know who you're going to look at when you go to these pro days. If you're sending people, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I have an interest in, this is what I'm looking for from this person at a pro day. Can pro days help your cause?
Yes.
I don't know if they can. I don't know about that, but I think they can hurt your cause.
They can. I think it's
if someone runs a 4.840 and they're supposed to run a little faster.
Sure.
That's a problem.
Like, for example, and I'm going to ask Ryan Day about this. Jordan Hancock with a 4.42 in Columbus Tuesday. That matters, right? It does matter. A lot of it also is medical check. Like, how is Seth McLaughlin coming back from that Achilles? Right? Like, you want to see these players up close. It has value, certainly. I mean, heck, NFL Network, ACC Network, SEC Network, you make your off-season business with pro days. But I just don't want fans to, A, read too much into them, or B, get upset about where teams are.
It is another chapter in the information gathering process.
Data point. Did
I sound enough like our organization?
Sure.
It's
also a silly season when it comes to the mock drafts. To quote a friend of the program, Brian Baldinger, everyone has a mock draft. So what? Adam Schefter, friend of the program as well, was on NFL Live on Tuesday and said, hey, I think it's going to be Abdul Carter to the Browns. Abdul Carter, the Penn State edge, wears 11. He's not LeVar Arrington. He's not Micah Parsons. He's just the next guy up wearing a number 11. Played at about 225, maybe even 219 last year. He is elite and dangerous off the edge. He also has some injury concerns, played through the playoff with a shoulder, but really with one arm, destroyed Notre Dame, and has a foot issue as well that came up at the Combine. He is not, according to reports, going to work out at Penn State Pro Day this week. People keep asking me, who do I want? I'll tell you right now, and I've said this, I want Cam Ward. Cam Ward may not be there. However, people go, but I want Abdul Carter. No, actually, you know what? I wouldn't mind Abdul Carter. The combination, look how the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. You put Miles and Abdul Carter and Alex Wright, if he's healthy, right? Michael Hall, if he's healthy. These guys are going to get healthy in the middle of that line. You got to send them in waves, guys. Pass rush wins in this league, and you get back to the defense you saw 2 years ago. I'm not going to be mad if it's Abdul Carter.
I think I like Travis Howard.
Hunter,
sorry.
No, I like
was thinking Will Howard. I'm looking down at my paperwork. I'm thinking Will Howard, Travis Howard, Travis Hunter. I really like Travis Hunter. I think if you're not going to take a quarterback, I'd like to have Travis Hunter on my team. I don't know if he's going to play offense, if he's going to play defense. I think we know where Andrew Berry has commented and at the Combine has said, receiver, great. We need playmakers. The more playmakers, the better. I think that I would rather have that. But if Abdul Carter is what they're sold on and who they're sold on, and they think that he is the next guy to really take this franchise to the next level, who might argue with that?
I also
they have a lot more zeros upstairs in their paychecks than I do.
And I also understand the pushback. It isn't a area of need.
Yes.
Area of need would be, if you don't like the quarterback, that's fine. It really is fine, people. The area of need would be other side of the ball. So go get Travis Hunter. If you think he's a wide receiver, and the words that AB used, primarily a wide receiver for us, I believe was the exact quote at the Combine, then go get him. That's fine as well. You know, the thought experiment is, would you rather have Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter at 2 and say Tyler Shuck at 33? Okay, potentially Jackson Dart at 33, although I don't think Jackson Dart is going to be there. I think he's going to be gone at 33.
I would agree with that.
Would you rather have that, or would you rather have like Shedeur Sanders at 2 and say Josh Connerly, the Oregon tackle, at 33, Nick Scorton, the A&M defensive end, or Travion Henderson, the Buckeye back, at 33? Like, because that's the thought experiment you have to play. And that's what the Browns have to decide as well. Look, in a perfect world, yeah, the Titans would take one of the Browns' 4 sixth-round picks, and the Browns can move up from 2 to 1. That's not what it's going to cost. And for the people that want to move up, and I'm one of them, you've got to wrap your head around the idea that it ain't going to be cheap. For people that say, oh, we can go from 2 to 1. Who cares? It's just 2 to 1. It ain't going to be cheap at all. And you have needs.
Yeah. No, you have a lot of holes still to fill. I mean, you need a tight end or two. You need a running back or two, another wide receiver or two, maybe a little more depth on that offensive line, people you can build, especially at the tackle position. Obviously, the quarterback room. Defensively, right now you've got a couple safeties. Going to need another body or two. Defensive tackle, I still think is a position, especially with Mike Hall Jr. coming off of the injury that he suffered in the final game of the year. Where is he at in his recovery? Is he going to be okay? I think a defensive tackle, I think still a linebacker. With JOK a question mark? Yeah. I know you just got Mr. Baker in here, and it's great to see him in the building, but I still think you have a lot of needs. You have a lot of draft picks, but you have a lot of needs still that you got to
Talking about Jerome Baker, the linebacker, Buckeye and Benedictine and former Dolphin back at home. I thought the video that was posted on Brown Social was cool, walking around with the family and being able to tell the kids, hey, Daddy's going to be able to take you to school every morning now. That got me right here. That warmed my heart. I'm pretty sure he's got plenty of gas left in the tank. He's a guy that I really loved. I remember interviewed him a couple of years ago when I was down in Miami for a training camp. It's cool to have him back. Hopefully, as you piece together the linebacker room, that linebacker room does include JOK. Fingers crossed. The short answer is we just don't know right now. Maybe we get an update, not only on JOK, but on a wide range of topics next week. So just laying out the postseason or the offseason. There is no offseason. Next week in Florida, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and potentially ownership as well will speak to the media at the owners' meetings is how it's called on TV. It's the NFL's annual meeting where they vote on rule changes and everyone is there to give everyone an update on everything. So don't expect AB to say, here's who we're taking. That's not going to happen. But you'll at least have something to talk about. We will at least have something to chew on a little bit more today, next week rather, Gibby, than we do today.
Absolutely. Maybe some rule changes we can get into at some point, hopefully. Coach is at the coach's breakfast. Have you been to the coach's breakfast? How's the food? Do you actually eat food at the coach's breakfast?
So here's what they do. The coach's breakfast. So the AFC coaches go Monday. The NFC coaches go Tuesday. They're bright and early in the morning, like 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. And it's in a hotel ballroom. It feels kind of like a wedding. So like the big round tables, hotel ballroom, tables that seat maybe 16, 18 people. And every coach has a table. And the media and the cameras show up very early because you need to get a spot at the table. You need to get your cameras in place, and they're all next to each other. And so there's, like I got my camera here potentially if I'm a cameraman and I'm backing up against the guy behind me who's talking to the other coach. But yes, there is a buffet, and that's another reason you get there early because you want to be able to eat before the coaches sit down and they start answering questions. But it is a really good forum because it's far less formal, rather. Kevin will sit there. All the reporters will be around the table. And, don't expect him to, again, go through game planning or tell you what exactly he thinks of every single quarterback. But you do get injury updates sometimes, and it is far more casual than what you normally get, and you do get some good answers.
Exactly.
A couple of years ago, perfect little story. A couple of years ago, and news does break, Lamar Jackson hit send on his trade request on Twitter 90 seconds before it was all planned. John Harbaugh sat down. Now, remember,
I remember this.
He had told the Ravens privately, much like Miles had done it privately before he hit send. Yeah, look, I want out. I want to trade, but it hadn't come out. So he hit send You want to talk about evil? Maybe evil's too strong. Like coordinated effort here. John Harbaugh sat down and they didn't know that it had been out yet. First question, John, your quarterback just requested a trade. Your thoughts? And he went, what? Now, he knew that he had requested the trade, but they've been working behind the scenes. Okay.
I hear the scrambled eggs are great over at the buffet.
Now it's
Why
out.
don't you go grab yourself some?
So sometimes you get stuff like that. So it'll be fun. Yeah. I'll save you some bacon.
There we go. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
I promised a guest. I'm really, really kind of thrilled we got this guest. Good job, Gibbe.
Once in a while.
Working behind the scenes on this one. You may know him from Columbus. He is the head coach of the national championship winning Ohio State Buckeyes on the best podcast available. Ryan Day, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here, guys.
So there's no rest for the winners, I guess. I mean, what was it? The parade was January 26th. Then, like, back at spring practice, pro day. Like, if you had a chance to nap, was there at least, maybe 2 days on the beach? Was there any Ryan Day time in all of this in a 10-month season?
Some days you wake up and it doesn't feel like anything's changed. And then there's other days where it does. But life goes on and you move on. But it's been great to celebrate the accomplishments of that team and the guys who came back for pro day. The banners are up on the walls, just a sense of pride when they walk in the Woody, which was great because they all kind of went away to train and then came back. So that's been great. But spring ball, we're in the second week of spring ball and we're back at it with this team.
You had 140 NFL personnel there. I think 6 head coaches, 6 GMs. I'm sure people are hiding in the corners as well to not get noticed. What does that mean to not only your current players, but the program in general? Yeah, we won, all right? We got the banner, we got the trophy. But look who is here. I mean, this is an NFL job fair, really.
Yeah. And I say, we have a meeting, right here in this room where, everyone's in there to start off the pro day, and I speak for a little while, and then Mick does his deal to kind of get everything organized. But one thing I say is that our goal is that day one, when they walk into the organization, they're professionals, they're pros. And, Ohio State's fan base is 11.5 million. Dallas Cowboys is 8.5. So, like, these guys know what it means to play in front of the bright lights. They know what it means to play for a team with expectations and preparation. And, I'm proud of the guys that we've developed going into this year's draft.
Let's talk about some of those guys. You had 14 to the combine, more than that working out yesterday. Can't name them all. But let's start with your quarterback. There was and I love this about Will, almost like this baby-face defiance that I saw yesterday from him. Maybe the combine wasn't the best. I love that yesterday he kind of blamed it on fans online from that school up north, which I found interesting. But Will came out with a purpose yesterday to, A, be better than Indianapolis, but B, put on a show. And then he wasn't afraid to go, yeah, I am the best quarterback in the draft. What did you see from him yesterday?
Yeah, I don't think he missed a throw. Maybe a little bit off on one. I don't know, but 60 some odd throws, and I thought the ball came out of his hand with pace. There was a rhythm about it, And the thing about Will is Will has just a great makeup in terms of his, I guess they call it now aura, but he's just got great juice to him, and so that was on display. But when you were there watching it, talking to a couple of the NFL personnel, you just realize how big he is. And he just looks like an NFL guy out there day one. He's got command. He can line up under center. He can line up in the gun. He can make all the throws. And I think he just wanted to show, what he can do in person. And sometimes with that combine, they tell the guy, take, 5 at a hitch, throw it to this cone or throw it to this area, and the receiver isn't. I mean, it gets a little goofy. I've been there before. I was in the NFL. I coached the quarterbacks. But I think this was a little bit more realistic to show his skill set.
And you're working with guys which is a huge difference, obviously, than the combine. But obviously, look, that's part of the combine test as well. How do you get on the same page with guys you just met a couple of days ago in a hotel lobby? The defiance, not the defiance, the confidence, the aura, as you said. How significant is that going to the next level? I know it's significant there, but not only the confidence, the amount of ownership, that you and Chip gave him at the line of scrimmage last year. I remember Chip called him kind of his run game coordinator. When you evaluate the position and you look at the pro days and, oh, look, he could flip his hips and throw it 70 yards. Who cares? Is that aura and leadership and ownership more significant in your eyes?
I think so, yeah. I think it's important for a quarterback to galvanize a team. They have to believe in him. Our team did. I think that when you walk into that huddle, there's just a certain amount of command that the quarterback needs to demand. And when you think about certain quarterbacks, especially late in their career, they really were like a coach on the field, and they could get the offense into the right play based on the couple plays that he's given in the huddle. And then obviously he's got to be great on third down, the red zone 2-minute. I think Will's shown he can do a good job on all three of those things. But it's all the other things that that matter when you're leading a group of men. And I guess maybe sometimes that gets lost. It doesn't get lost on me, or I'm sure many of the coaches, is just the type of guy he is to bring people together and lead. And so his football IQ is tremendous. He's got great intelligence. He's got great moxie. He's got great toughness. He also can run with the ball when needed. So I think when you add all those things up, you're seeing a guy who goes into the NFL day one ready for it.
Don't want to fixate too much on the quarterbacks, but this is a Browns podcast, and I feel like the quarterback carousel in the NFL right now, you might have heard the Browns are looking for one, is somewhat similar almost to what happens in college football. The transfer portal feels like it's quarterback free agency. Last year when you went through this, you found Will. I know you dabbled and you looked around. Cam Ward is part of the conversation. Kyle ended up in Syracuse as an Orange man. I'm happy for that one. Thank you. What did you see, if I could ask, as Cam Ward's name is now in the NFL carousel at all? And did you think that, we could be talking about the number 1 overall pick in 12 months?
I don't really have a strong opinion there. I did watch his film when we were going through the process and recognized somebody who made quick decisions, was accurate, and really played at a high level. So I have a lot of respect for him as a player, but I can't sit there and tell you I've evaluated him and can really give a lot of great input there. But a big part of this is fit too. When you look at some young quarterbacks when they come into the league, they gotta have the right fit, and I think that's been important for CJ. I'm excited to see Justin go to the New York Jets. And I feel like, for Will and for whoever's going out in this draft, the fit will be important. And that's why when we do our pro day, we want to give, these scouts and personnel all the information that they can possibly have to make sure it is the right fit. Because a good fit, it can just take off. A bad fit, can be a failure. So that's as much as a part of this as anything.
Let's get back to your guys. Is there such a thing as a bad fit for Emeka Egbuka?
I think there's some that are probably better than others, but Emeka can do multiple things. He's somebody who has been really clutch. He's made a lot of plays. He's been extremely productive. He's extremely intelligent. He's durable, powerful, can create a lot of space in his route running. Very detailed in his preparation. So Emeka is going to play in the NFL for a long, long time. How it all plays out, that's for the NFL personnel to decide. But whoever drafts Emeka is going to get somebody that's going to bring instant value to their team as a player, but then also off the field.
Yeah, and we've heard he killed the interviews, which is not surprising, obviously, right. In Indianapolis. He's going to kill any interview when he gets to any team day one. Yep. On that podium. Some of the other guys yesterday, first of all, is Tyreek okay?
Yeah, tweaked it, but it was not something that we felt like was major or a long-term injury. Hopefully he'll be back to normal here in a few weeks.
Good, that was scary. Jordan Hancock 4.42. That might surprise some people.
Really good. This is somebody who actually had a significant hamstring injury early on in his career, and then kind of worked his way back up, and now you're seeing really his best football. I thought he played his best football in the playoffs. I thought he was tremendous. I think he brings some flexibility and versatility with his game. And this is a guy who, again, maybe not a lot of guys, we're talking about a ton, but you see the way he runs, you see the way he played in the playoffs. Again, a real value pick. And I think this is another guy who's going to play for a long time in the NFL.
The way he helped you out down the stretch, do you think Donovan Jackson can play tackle in the NFL?
I think he can. Yeah. Um, is that his best position? Probably not. I would say he's a guard that could swing to a tackle, kind of like he did for us. But when you watch what he did at tackle for us this year, it's hard to say that he, wouldn't be, a good tackle in the NFL. But I think that's his value too. When you have the ability to swing from position to position, especially with the limitations in the NFL in terms of roster size, and when you're playing an eligible or when you're activating sometimes there's 7 guys, that being something that he's done, shown, and put on film. I know there's a lot of teams that watch him, and to me, he's a can't miss.
Is there any chance, I would be crazy, that your 2 running backs would end up on the same team in the NFL? That would be wild, wouldn't it?
I mean, yeah, I guess there's a chance, and it would be great because they talk about 2 guys who understand about teamwork, and because of their unselfishness, ended up playing their best down the stretch for us in the playoffs. But 2 really good backs, different backs, but both, again, I think are going to have long careers in the NFL because they're 3-down backs. Quinshawn, somebody we only had for a year, but once he got into the rhythm of our offense and how we do things in more of an NFL style of offense with protections and route running, was great. He had some big catches and great protections for us down the stretch. But then you also saw Travion. I think, who knows, Travion may have a better career in the NFL than he did in college just because of his route running ability and his ability to be, on the field for 3 downs and his home run capability.
Yeah, saw that home run capability certainly in the playoffs here. What's it going to be like without Jack Sawyer in the building?
No, he's in here right now, so I don't know yet.
So that hasn't changed yet?
No, he's got a Dunkin' Donuts coffee and walking around and making sure the D-line's rocking off the ball. But he's just somebody who is just the heart and soul of Buckeye football. And, he's going to be missed. These guys are all going to be missed. But this is somebody who grew up, in Columbus, wanted to be a Buckeye. And so to see it come full circle, obviously with the play he made in the Cotton Bowl, but to win a national championship, certainly it's a great story.
I got 2 more things for you, Ryan. I appreciate your time. There's been this talk of not a spring game. I know you made the point this week. You still want to do the spring game. Fingers crossed. The roster is healthy. There's been this talk of potentially Syracuse going to Colorado and having a spring game between 2 schools, which is something, at least as I could remember, we have never seen happen. What do you think of that?
I think on the surface, it's a pretty unique idea, and I think there's certainly merit to it. I think one of the things about practicing now, and when there's obviously a lot of talk about our roster limit going to 105, there's a lot of challenges with that. Because when you look at NFL teams, you'd say, well, they have shorter, smaller rosters, 53-man rosters. Well, when you look on a year-to-year basis, there's guys in and out of that building, and it starts with 90 during the preseason, and they whittle it down. And so, for us to get to 105 is tough, especially with freshmen and young players who maybe, aren't ready to get on the field. So when I say that because we can't afford to get guys injured. And when you're with your own team, you can set the guidelines, you can set the rules of engagement. When you start to put 2 teams together in a practice setting, a lot of things could happen. You're not thinking about taking care of your teammates.
Yeah.
And now you're just worried about competing. And that's the biggest concern I would have. I think it's a great idea in terms of competition and those type of things. I would just worry about, somebody, getting hurt because of, you're going to tackle. If you're going to tackle and play a game, I think that would probably be the best case scenario. But if you're going to practice against somebody, I see some situations that could put guys in harm's way.
Yeah, you see it in the NFL. You know this with joint practices. Right. Day one's okay. It gets a little heated. Day 2 is usually when the fists start flying, and you got to warn guys ahead of time. Yeah. Can't have the fights. Spring game, though, fascinating. Last thing. Of the 140 NFL people there yesterday, what percentage would you estimate said, hey, what about Jeremiah Smith? Tell me about him.
No, I think obviously everyone knows who he is. He's obviously become a household name, and he's got 2 more years. So we'll talk about him in We'll give him one more year before we can start talking about him
Okay.
in the NFL.
I mean, he doesn't turn 20 until the day you play the team up north this
Yeah.
fall. He's still 19. But, if he were in this draft, just saying, it would be interesting.
Yes,
Ryan Day, know you're busy. It is back to the grind. Appreciate the time. Good luck here in spring practice, and good luck getting this team ready over the next 5 months. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Love having Ryan Day on, especially now. I mentioned Jerome Baker before, such a big Buckeye presence in the building in Berea, the Cross Country Mortgage campus. And I don't want to say he's different, Gibbe, but when they opened up spring practice and he had that first press conference, last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, like he did kind of concede, yeah, it's different. Like, yeah, you could breathe a little. Like,
yes,
a weight has been lifted.
A little bit.
Little
Anvil.
Little bit. Yeah. Not Advil.
Oh, and rightfully so. A champion's prerogative. You've got a little hall pass. Now you've got some breathing room.
Yeah.
Like now in these days of NIL, I can tell you that, 48 hours after they had a little trophy ceremony at Ohio Stadium, like they were having to figure out how they're going to pay guys to stay. So, I mean, it's a quick turnaround and they're back at it and spring ball's underway. But I think it was a really great opportunity at their pro day to, for one final time, thank the 17 players that are leaving for everything that they've done for this program. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of names called in 4 weeks in Green Bay that have the Ohio State University at the end of it.
I mentioned there were 14 at the combine. There were more than that working out yesterday. Just G. Scott, for example, the tight end, for some reason didn't get a combine invite. He was one of the guys working out there. Looking ahead, I mentioned the annual meeting next week. Also, next Friday, the 4th of April, is going to be Colorado Pro Day. It is going to be a circus. Not only with Shedeur Sanders, but with Travis Hunter, obviously, as well, with the Heisman Trophy winner. Don't know yet who's going to work out. You really don't know.
No. I mean, we don't. Right now, we're hearing Abdul Carter's not going to work out at Penn State's pro day.
Now,
tomorrow.
That's a legit injury concern.
Yes.
Don't know who's going to work out. Neither Shedeur nor Travis Hunter worked out at Big 12 Pro Day last week. That was in Dallas. Assume they're going to work out. I don't know that they need to. I'd like to see Shedeur Sanders throw. As much as I said, I don't care what Cam Ward did at his pro day. Cam Ward's got the arm strength. I think it would be nice to see what Shedeur does in person. Travis Hunter, I don't need to see him work out. Again, it's about the interviews and the private stuff that is far more significant.
Yeah. And you just wonder, you got guys that don't want to work out at the combine. Now you got guys that don't want to work out on their pro days. Like, what's the future of these? I mean, you don't want to hurt your stock. And if your stock's as high as it's going to be, like Will Howard, if Will Howard had said the other day at Ohio State's pro day, I'm not throwing, I would have been like, yeah, all right, I get it.
See,
like your stocks.
I would have pushed back against that because, as you talked about there with Coach, most people didn't think he threw that well. And there are reasons, like you don't know the guys you're throwing to. I get it. At the combine, yesterday was exactly the opposite. So I think he needed to. Yes. And I think he answered some critics. But if you didn't like him before, you probably don't like him after the pro day. Doesn't matter. You form your opinions, and then you go in person. Off-season program is going to start soon. We are almost in April, going to have guys back in the building. Just friendly reminder, when they're back in the building, they're not actually on the field practicing football. Right? It's not football practice.
And they don't have to be here.
Yes.
It's voluntary.
Voluntary. You can pass your own.
That'll be the other overreaction.
They should be there, but it's not voluntary. These are collectively bargained things as part of your employment agreement. Whatever your job is, whatever you do for a living, however you put a roof over your head, there's some kind of agreement that there are days when you actually don't have to come to work. Like others can go to work, but like you're not actually obligated.
No. I just report to Philo. Whatever Philo tells me. That's how this goes.
And on that note, we will wrap, and we'll be back next week. I want to thank the aforementioned Justin Philo and the entire Browns content team, and the head coach of the world champion Ohio State Buckeyes. And that would be Ryan Day. For Gibby, my name is Andrew Siciliano. Thank you for listening to the best, like, subscribe, and all those things. The best podcast available.